Prohibition was one of the time periods in American history that gave way to some of the most innovative and creative, albeit illegal, solutions the nation has ever seen. The desire for alcohol created an entirely new field, bootlegging and rum running. From driving motor and ship developments to reorganizing social norms, there aren't many sectors the illegal alcohol industry didn't touch or affect in some way. The long-term effects, years after Prohibition ended and bootlegging and rum running became an obsolete field, can still be seen from things like the Kennedy dynasty in American politics to NASCAR. So in this speech, I'll be diving into why bootlegging and rum running became a thing, how these fields operated, and the long-term effects they had on America and its politics. At the turn of the 20th century, alcohol and its effects had become a forefront topic, especially in the Bible Belt states. The Protestants were the first to oppose the production and sale of alcohol, but many other critics joined, one of the strongest critics being women, who thought that it made their husbands violent and lazy, and that it was destroying families. Critics also argued that alcohol led to saloon-based corruption, which was where they thought that saloons were paying off politicians and that politicians were making decisions to benefit saloons, not to actually benefit the American people. Saloon-based corruption also refers to how many people thought that any place that distributed alcohol was a den of sin and facilitated shady dealings or different corruption. In 1920, the efforts from prohibitionist groups like the Women's Christian Temperance Union and the Anti-Saloon League paid off, however, with the passage of the 18th Amendment, which established the prohibition of alcohol. While many observed the new laws, many simply quit drinking alcohol, many more actually still decided that they needed alcohol in their lives, and that is where bootleggers and rum runners came into play. Bootlegging as a term generally refers to the smuggling of alcohol over land, while rum running actually refers to the smuggling of alcohol over waterways. The term rum runner is thought to have originated from the ships that brought Caribbean rum from the western Bahamas to Florida speakeasies, and that was the first of the illegal smuggling over waterways that started off everything. So fluctuation and different restrictions had made smuggling a profitable endeavor from about the 16th century onward, but when Prohibition completely banned alcohol, there was a resurgence of interest in the illegal alcohol industry. Different techniques and methods from past smugglers did mean, however, that the new generation had a framework to work off of and modify. But all of this only worked because of three specific groups in a symbiotic relationship that made the entire industry function. The first of this group is the manufacturers, who actually produce the alcohol. It was a very diverse group with a lot of variety in it, because as long as you had the materials in the space, you could produce alcohol and sell it. But a lot of these people were individuals who had worked in the alcohol production industry who would have lost their jobs and their livelihoods had they not done something to continue making a profit. The second of this group are the business owners, who, like the manufacturers, generally were people who already owned an establishment and needed to make a livelihood. They would have gone out of business and they would have had no income had they not still opened and purchased alcohol from the manufacturers. Now, the third part of this are the transporters, who were anybody who had the means to transport alcohol. A lot of the time they were poor people who saw this as a way to get themselves out of poverty because transporting was a lucrative field. And the unofficial fourth part of this relationship were law enforcement officers, who were a wild card in the situation. They oftentimes would enforce laws, and there were many task forces dedicated to busting smuggling rings, but an even greater number would look the other way for the right price. And so cars were actually the preferred method of transportation because they were the fastest and most private option available, and they were easy to modify. Bootleggers' main concern was with being as fast as possible to transport their product quickly and covertly. They often used dark-colored cars and transported at night in an effort to avoid detection, but if they were spotted, they relied on their souped-up Ford coupes to outpace law enforcement. Moonshiners specifically took the modification of cars to new levels when they entered the illegal alcohol industry. Due to all of this, bootlegging and rum running led to a variety of lasting effects. The illegal alcohol business has been around for a long time, and it continues to cost the state's money to this day. Virginia estimates that it's lost some $20 million to the legal whiskey industry. And one of the most notable inadvertent creations of the Prohibition-era alcohol smuggling was actually NASCAR. The moonshiners who continuously modified their cars to outrun law enforcement also raced each other. Car racing and betting became a lucrative and fun side hobby, and eventually it gave way to actual tracks, designated drivers, different betting pools, and brackets, and these became the first official stock car racing circuits. A broader effect of the car modification were actually cars that came out after this. Car manufacturers saw the positive changes that bootleggers had made to their vehicles, and they adopted them into their own models. Cars became faster, more durable, they could carry more weight, and they had more storage in them. Another effect that is completely unrelated, yet no less relevant than NASCAR, were the effects that Prohibition-era alcohol smuggling had on American politics. Using the Kennedy family as an example, because they are arguably the most influential family that came out of this, the Kennedy family actually got their start in alcohol smuggling. It's where they gained their influence and their money. And so that is how they were able to enter the political spheres. They even went on to produce a president, John F. Kennedy, who I hope we're all familiar with. Countless political decisions from local to the national level have been made by families that wouldn't have had the influence had it not been for their dealings in the illegal alcohol industry. Rum running and bootlegging during Prohibition and the legal alcohol trade in general led to monumental changes in American politics, social structures, economic systems, and so much more. Prohibition created a new consumer base, and many pioneering Americans met the challenge in the new demand. While bootlegging and rum running may seem like a long-gone profession, remember that it's still alive and well today, just in a different form as it's constantly evolving.